right, guys. So without much ado, let me introduce my dear friend, Rahul Anand, to everyone. Rahul is a student from the University of Michigan at Ann Arbor, did his MBA at Harvard Business School, which is where we met and connected. And over the past couple of years, Rahul has built from scratch Hopscotch.in, a brand that needs no introduction. Anyone with children or nieces or nephews will be very familiar with his brand. He has over 3 million active users on his portal and has raised over $60 million in funding. So we're going to learn all about his journey today. Apart from all his professional and academic accolades, just want to say that he's a great person. And the minute I reached out to him to be on the show, he, without any questions, in fact, just willingly accepted. So thank you, Rahul, for being so generous with your time and accepting my invitation, and really appreciate your presence today on the show.
Thanks very much. It's an honor to be here.
All right. We have someone saying amazing brand. Okay, great. All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. And please obviously follow Hopscotch's Instagram page, because they're very active on Instagram and they obviously share a lot of their products and promotions, etc. on their page. So whoever's not following Hopscotch, do follow their page. Okay, Rahul, since at Reach Ivy, we are an education advisory, my first question is always about people's education. So if you could sort of flash back to, your early years, college, and what were you like as a kid? What were your early years like?
Yeah. So look, I grew up in Bombay, went to Cathedral School, and I think I consistently managed to be at the bottom 50th percentile of my class. Fortunately, I played and excelled at piano and played some competitive squash along the way. And so the small wins helped me get through school and come out in one piece. But, as I was growing up through those school years, I loved taking apart consumer electronics. I can't count how many turntables I destroyed or how many times I made my mother cry doing so. But I think my dad, on the other hand, was surreptitiously quite proud to see his son's engineering bent to mind. And so I grew up going to the factory with him, starting my teenage years, and then decided to really build an empire. I needed to get an engineering degree, and so I went to the University of Michigan. Spent some time there.
Your family business at that point was in manufacturing. So
manufacturing in the hardware industry. Yeah.
Okay. So you spent time on a factory floor and all that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Factory floor, working with labor,
Wow.
running a real business, making real things. And so it was quite an interesting experience. I spent my summers and free time there growing up, and so I got a glimpse, I got a flavor. I really liked what I was doing, I think the entrepreneurial bug had hit me. I liked the world of endless possibility, and felt that I had found at age 15, 16 what I really wanted to do in life, and so so that's what led me towards an engineering degree. I applied to colleges, got into the University of Michigan.
So you wanted you went to engineering school because you thought you wanted to sort of build product? Was that the idea?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I wanted to become the Lee Iacocca of Indian manufacturing, believe it or not. I read a lot about him. He's for those of you who don't know, he's a veteran of the U.S. automotive industry. He's a man who invented the Ford Mustang and then turned Chrysler Auto around. And so I got really inspired by a lot of the things that he did and the things that were going on in Japan with lean manufacturing and what the Toyota Motor Company had done in the world. And so I thought, why not really make this that area of competitive expertise that helps me create this massive business empire. And so that's what I went to Michigan to do. And so I hope to gain from.
You willingly sort of and fittingly went to Michigan, the automobile hub, given your inspiration. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And
And
so
how were those years? How was Michigan for you?
Michigan, one word, cold, really bitterly cold, right? It's interesting. Growing up in Bombay, we pretty much have no seasons. We wear the same clothes year round, and for about a week in the year, we might put on a sweater before we, stand at the bus stop in the mornings, right? And here I was going to a place that had consistently seen negative 30-degree Fahrenheit days.
Wow.
So it was quite an experience. Um, but look, it's like any big and good US engineering college, large size classrooms. And your skills in India really help you because you're doing a lot of the learning on your own. The classrooms are so big, being in these auditoriums doesn't give you a lot of personal attention, but you're used to that.
Sure.
And so, um, yeah, so it was fun. It was fun being in college. It was a completely new experience. We hadn't, in those days, none of us traveled abroad and had the exposure that we enjoy today,
Sure.
thanks to technology and ease of travel. So yeah, Michigan was fun.
Okay. So cold, fun, different exposure. Just like from an academic perspective, like what does engineering entail? Yeah. For those of you, who are not familiar with that world of, engineering undergrad in the US, if you had a sort of some of your experience, what would you say were sort of so the nuggets or the sort of,
Yeah.
the learnings that you think an engineering degree would give you?
Yeah, so I think all engineering degrees, to start off with, begin with a foundation of physics, chemistry, and depending on what you're doing, math or biology, right? And so that's sort of where you spend the larger part of your time in the first couple of years. And then in the next 2 years, you tend to go deep into certain areas, and hopefully by then you've got a flavor of different things, and you can specialize in any engineering major you like. The wonderful thing about being in the US is it gives you lots of flexibility, and so you can decide to, you know, go into coding and become a computer science or computer engineering major, or you can decide to understand how factories work and go into mechanical and industrial engineering. And I think in my
Okay, so
case,
what route did you pick?
so I did that, right? So I got the university to design a program for me that would allow me to do two engineering degrees in that 4-year time span. And so I
Okay.
did both industrial and mechanical engineering,
Oh, wow.
given my interests.
Okay, I'm just going to take a comment from Josh Kruner, who says, I recently ordered a few things for my daughter Kushi from Hopscotch, and I must say that I'd recommend it to people. Oh, great. Thank you, Josh,
Oh,
for that.
thank you. That's very flattering.
Okay,
Made my day.
so Michigan, you sort of learned, got two undergraduate degrees, got the nitty gritty of product and manufacturing under your belt. What happened next? What happened next?
What happened next? This was the late 90s. The dot-com boom was in full gusto. Um, and uh, and I sort of picked a middle of the road approach. I joined a technology company. I joined Dell Computer at the time, um, that had a strong set of technology capabilities, but at the same time allowed me to understand what made this very special supply chain that they had created, very innovative supply chain work.
The
So I
whole
went there.
just-in-time.
Yeah, the whole just-in-time manufacturing, holding no inventory, negative working capital, all those, all that jargon, right? And in those days, it was one of the hottest companies that had grown and overtaken IBM and all the other leaders in the personal computer space. And
Okay.
uh, and so yeah, that was
How
down in
long were you with
Texas.
them?
Under a year. I was at Dell
Okay.
for under a year. Um, you know, I, I s- I started there in September, uh, right when the dot-com boom was sort of about to burst. And 8 months later, I ended up with no job. I got hit as part of a massive layoff that hit 5,000 people. So that was
Oh,
quite a
wow.
big whack. Yeah.
Okay, so
Uh,
now I've learned two things about you, and I'm wondering how you got into Harvard. First, you said you were in the bottom 50% of your class, and
yeah.
now you told me you got laid off
Yeah.
on your first job.
Not quite the stellar story that leads to being part of an Ivy League institution.
And this is good. I'm glad you're being honest and sharing, because a lot of people who might have had one of your two experiences would have sort of self-dismissed any chance of getting into an Ivy League school. So,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah, yeah.
what happens
Yeah,
then? How do you find
so
opportunity
what
in
I
the
did
middle of
was
this?
it was 9/11, right? I was looking for a job. Something interesting that happened was I was looking for jobs. I didn't want to be in Texas. So I went up to the Northeast, and as I was looking for jobs, I found this company up in Boston, founded by two PhD students out of MIT labs, and they're building a really cool technology product again in the supply chain space. And so I got ready to head up there for an interview, rented a car, and drove up from New York. And I parked that car on the street. It was around, I want to say the 9th or 10th of September. I think it was the 12th or 13th of September. Sorry, it was after 9/11. And suddenly that car disappeared. And so I went to the cop station and I said, I parked my car on the street and there was a broken meter there and I didn't have to pay for parking. So I knew that spot really well. So I said, I parked my car on the street and someone's picked it up. I didn't know if that broken meter was a reason that they impounded the car. And all of a sudden, in literally 5 minutes, two guys from the FBI show up and they're like,
Wow.
you were in New York and now you're in Boston. And I don't think they told me, but in other words, you have brown skin. And so, they thought they had nabbed some guy only to realize that that it wasn't me. Anyway, so I found my
Oh,
way up in Boston at a very cool startup, which I loved. And I spent a couple of the years there working out of Boston before moving back to
this
India.
is your time with diapers.com?
No, no, this is before. This is a company called Optient. It's a
Okay.
startup based out of Boston. Yeah.
Okay. And
And
what do you think you picked up from the startup? You went from Dell, like a large manufacturing setup, to
yeah,
the startup environment. So, just sort of compare and contrast those two environments for us.
yeah, yeah. Look, I think I learned working at a startup that I enjoyed running barefoot, right? I liked getting my hands dirty. I liked building things. I gained fulfillment from it. When you're at a larger organization like Dell, a large and very successful one, uh, you're part of a great institution. There's lots of set processes, and the organization functions really well, which leads to success. The challenge is when you join a company at that stage, but you're a person who likes building things, you're a person who's hands-on, you
Yeah.
don't get a lot of personal fulfillment. And so, my learning when I contrast Dell and Optient was, we're all coded different, and some people do wonderfully well at large organizations, and many of us don't, right? And I think in my case, as I look back, I realized that I really enjoyed being an entrepreneur. I really enjoyed waking up every morning, knowing that the sky was the limit, and something great could happen that day, right? And I think being in that company was very exciting and made me realize more and more that entrepreneurship was my true calling.
Okay, very interesting, Rahul, because I went from BlackRock, large sort of
Yeah,
firm with processes, exactly as you're saying, to a startup hedge fund. And I can sort of completely echo your sentiments. It's exactly that. Like, I think
right.
just different people are cut out for different stuff, and
Yeah,
you've got to figure
yeah.
out what you're cut out to do.
Well said.
All right, I'm just going to pick up a couple of comments coming here. Anil Chahal says, I'm a ex-Hopscotchian,
Hey, hi,
loved
Anil.
working there.
I know, Anil.
Recently bought a few clothes for my niece. Quality and delivery was as expected as I got. Thank you so much, Hopscotch. Thank you, Anil, for that
Oh,
comment. He also says, good to see Rahul after so many months, almost a year, I guess, wishing Hopscotch all the very best.
Thanks, Anil.
All right, let's take a question here. Okay, this is about hopscotch. I'm gonna get to hopscotch, guys. Let me move on. So, okay, I got a quick. Okay, Aki boy, I'll come back to your question, Aki boy. Just hang in there. All right, let's fast forward. So you spent some time with this startup. How did business school happen? What took you to business school from engineering to getting the MBA? What was that about?
Yeah, so what happened in between was after the startup, I returned to the family business in post-liberalized India, right? It was the early 2000s. Competitive dynamics had massively changed. And instead of building the business empire that I had dreamed of growing up, I found myself traveling across the country in trains and overnight buses, collecting payments from from customers who never liked paying you. And so so it was a stressful time in the business, and it was really challenging way to run a business. And looking back, I think those were some of the hardest, most grounding real world business experiences that I had. It really taught me the actual nuts and bolts of running, a business. And I think more than that, looking back, I realized that there's only so much in life you can control, and in this case, we were part of a much larger world with forces that we could control, right? And with the real extreme competition, there was only so much of a future this business would have. And so I took a call, a very hard call, an emotionally grueling call to go find myself a new career. And the MBA was a way to get there. And
Okay.
so I applied to 10 to 12 schools. I got into none, not a single one. I got rejected from every single school I applied to. So you can add that to my list of failures. And
I'm
then
counting. In 60 minutes, we've reached 3 failures. I'm loving this. You're my
giving you
first
the
guest
whole
who's
story.
so candid. I'm loving the candid nature of this conversation. And you're so comfortable with your failures because you've clearly made a success of your life. So this is great. Keep them coming because they're great
Yeah,
life
so
lessons.
I was determined to go, and fortunately, a few near and dear friends supported me, and helped me put my story together more eloquently.
Well, I'm
And then
sorry
I
there
got
was no
into
Reach IB around at that point. Otherwise, I would have happily helped.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm sure. And I didn't know you then because I'm sure even without Reach Ivy, you probably had a knack for doing what you're doing now. Um, and so I and so nothing changed, not my story, not my work experience, not my GMAT scores, nothing changed at all. And I got into HBS in the first batch of
Wow.
admissions, and I think that if I look back, that was the turning point of my life and my career. Just getting into that school, uh, really helped me uh, find my true north in life. It helped me find my calling. And so, yeah, and so that's where I think a lot of exciting things
That's
happened.
how business school
Uh,
sort of happened for you.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I was forced to go to business school because I had nowhere else to go, and and of course, when I came out of business school, I was there was lots of different things I had learned about myself, what I liked, what I didn't like, the sort of size and scale of company I wanted to join. And so I joined a company called diapers.com in New York. It was a mid-stage startup, um, and as part of the management team there, we ended up building the biggest kids business in America. And a little over a year and a half later, Amazon showed up and bought the company from us. And so that was a very interesting and defining journey in my life. Um, I was in my early 30s when all of this was happening, and my friends in India were starting families. Knowing that I worked for a kids business, they sent me these insanely long shopping lists. Um, and I remember making this trip back to Bombay. It was a surprise visit, and I met these friends like surprise, and one of my friends was just so upset because I didn't let her know I was coming back. She guilt tripped me into believing that her kids would now have to walk barefoot. They had no shoes to wear just because I showed up empty-handed. But yeah, I could see that there was a lot of pent-up need in India. It was very apparent that India
Hmm.
had a bunch of luxury brands that no one could afford, and then they had a lot of really
Very
low
low end brands. Hmm.
and cheap merchandise that no one wanted to buy, right? Not the not the Indians that were trading up their purchasing uh, uh, as they sort of ascended the socio-economic pyramid, right? And so I spent time meeting founders and VCs and right there got this idea to launch Hopscotch and fill this vacuum in the Indian kids market, right? It was uncanny that this was the biggest kids market in the world. Absolutely no brand.
Rahul, losing volume. Yeah. Now we got you back.
Can you hear me now? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I was saying it's the biggest kids market in the world and there were no brands. And so we figured out that somehow we had to there was a play for us in here. And yeah, that's how Hopscotch happened. That's how we got started off. I reached out to my boss at diapers.com and I said, Lisa, here's an opportunity in India and why don't we partner up and make it happen? And she's like, damn straight, let's do it. And so we partnered up, went to the one of the founding members of diapers.com and got him to write us our first check. And so
Oh,
that
wow.
was back. That was almost 10 years ago. We very quickly got started and launched in a span of about 6 months. We went live. We launched over 3,000 American and European brands that were keen to enter the Indian market.
3,000 brands.
3,000 brands, yeah. Like we just
Wow.
launched them in very close success. We probably launched more brands in India than I think India had collectively seen. Like I'm talking about real brands, right? And as we were building the business over a span of 3 years, we quickly understood the color palettes, the design sensibility, the price points that worked with Indian consumers. And that helped us double down we launched 3,000 brands, but we cherry picked the brands that really worked. We partnered closely with them and became the largest point of distribution in the world for some of the top 10 kids brands. There was no one bigger than us outside the United States.
Wow.
And that was all really flattering, like a great story, right? Except as we looked at life in a mirror, we said we went through a little bit of a existential crisis, right? Because as we looked at these brands, they weren't really keen on the Indian consumer. They were just happy to have us buy their stuff and sell it to people, right? Like I mean, that's how they were thinking of it, very transactionally. And here
Like
we were,
you were an intermediary for their
yeah,
brands.
absolutely. And like here we were with big dreams to sort of fill a massive vacuum in the Indian market, but with partners that didn't really have the same level of conviction or commitment. And I think the second part here was the market's super fragmented. There's over 100,000 brands in the US. There's probably a couple of 100,000 brands in India and China. And no one knew about these brands we were selling, right? It was good stuff, but no one knew of them. And so we said, why be the middleman if you
Hmm.
can be the man, right? So we said, let's go
Hmm.
build a brand. And so about 5 years ago, we completely ditched that initial business model of being a distributor of third-party brands, being a retailer, to
Yeah.
actually building a brand. And 5 years later, we've come a long way, and it's been quite the journey.
So now you're not selling any other merchandise other than your own. So you
So,
guys manufacture your own merchandise as well.
well, look, a typical retailer has private label collections, right? There is random
Mhm.
names, right? Like VTC, Vibha Trading Company, right? Like no one knows what these labels are
Right.
or the brand, right? There's no top of mind recall. So a typical retailer will have about 80% of its assortment with third party brands, and then they try and make a little more money selling their own stuff.
Right.
And in our case, it's the other way around. 80% is our own brand, and the other 20 odd percent is third party brands. And that share keeps shrinking. It was about 60% a few years ago, and as we get smarter and better, we increase the concentration of revenue that's actually driven off our own brand. And we're investing in
The margin.
Hopscotch. Yeah, it's not just the margin, right? Like, I think it was more the mission over here. The mission was never to create a luxury brand. Like, we weren't trying to create Gucci for kids. We said we want to create a brand that helps bridge the gap. Like, if this is aspiration, we wanted to sort of bridge the gap between aspiration and affordability, right? And so that was the secret to a lot of the success we saw, right? It was this sort of mission to make sure that the brand spoke to the needs of consumers in India. And so we focused really hard on figuring out how we could disrupt the traditional fashion industry that worked on very large markups, with huge amounts of forecast error and inefficiency, and actually get rid of that fat with a much leaner model that enabled us to give our consumers far more value than any other players in the market. Right? And as a result, when it comes to kids party or kids trendy fashion, sleepwear, right? A lot of the merchandise that we've been able to sell to the consumer here to serve all these occasions in a child's life, these are categories that never existed before. Like, Hopscotch has been a category creator. And it's not that we've been really novel by creating the category. The merchandise always existed outside India, but it was never affordable to the Indian consumer, right? And we found a business model that would allow us to build a brand that was affordable. And today about 70% of our revenue is from small towns, right? Tier 2 and smaller towns are the lion's share of our revenue. It's not because we have friends or family that live in those places that buy all this stuff. It's because we've really hit that sweet spot of aspiration and affordability.
Yeah, I mean, even if you told me it was friends and family, I wouldn't believe you have 3 million friends and family now transacting on your portal. So that's definitely quite phenomenal. So, obviously you've tasted success, you've seen this sort of growth. What I would really like to understand, even from just a personal interest perspective, is how do you grow and how do you scale, a retail business like this? What goes behind scaling something like this? What goes on behind the scenes?
Yeah, I think your endurance for pain has to be really high. No, I'm kidding. More seriously, look, e-commerce is a technology business, right? Like any technology business, you have a demand side and you have a supply side, right? When we talk about the demand side, at the top of the funnel, you have all these consumers on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok until recently, and Google, and so they're on these platforms doing stuff, right? And so you're able to reach a massive audience of consumers, right? And so on the demand side, you've got at the top of the funnel, you have these platforms, really big, capable companies that help you reach your consumer all around India in highly intelligent ways, right? It's quite different from a traditional business, right? We can pick the age, the gender. We can target women between the ages of 25 to 40 and show our ads to them and say, you know what, we're giving you some money, but please show them to relevant people. We don't want to be on the Times of India or, a magazine where we go to, where we have a lot of waste there. And so you've got these amazing and highly scalable platforms to do marketing. And then you've got your own storefronts on your Android, iOS apps, and of course, websites that allow you to let people look at and window shop, right? So every day at Hopscotch, we launch about 300 new, unique, and unseen styles. A typical brand launches 300 styles in a year or in 6 months. We do it every day, right?
Every day you launch 300 new styles.
300 new styles, right?
Wow.
And because of, our consumers are mostly moms right? They're women. They love to window shop, right? They like to browse around, and their kids keep growing, and so they're constantly looking around to buy. So on the demand side of an e-commerce business, you have these things, right? You've got very strong marketing outreach and these storefronts where you can showcase your assortment. And then on the supply side, you have lots of vendors around the world, right? We scour the world to find these vendors, and we take their merchandise, and every day we launch it, right? And so we, in a matter of 48 hours, right, a vendor can upload their latest styles, expose it to consumers, and we will churn through a lot of data models that will help us understand and them understand what trends work and what trends don't work, right? So all this decision making happens in a matter of days. In a typical fashion industry, at Zara, they probably take about 20 days to figure this out, right? And here you are making it happen much quicker. And so on the supply side, you allow vendors to publish their assortment, like with beautiful photographs and with all the information you need. And on the demand side, you've got these storefronts that consumers keep coming back to look at, right? They want to see new things. People in retail shop when things go on sale or when things are new. We focus on the new. We focus on the latest trends. That's our sweet spot. And we engage them with a lot of this newness. And then, of course, it's all connected together with a boatload of technology that I won't bore you with.
But then, Rahul, so if you're, getting these brands to onboard these brands and sort of let them showcase the collection, how are you then managing the supply chain? With your whole Dell experience of the just-in-time delivery, these brands, as you mentioned, were all largely American brands, right?
Yeah. So they used to be American brands. Those Western brands used to drive 80+% of our business. Just like any other retailer, right? Like it's the big guys that control your destiny, and it's the big guys that you give most of your love to, right? When we pivoted the business 5 years ago, things switched, right? The big brands today have shrunk from 80% to 1% of overall revenue. And our own brand, Hopscotch, is about 80% of our total revenue, right? And so who we're working with is small and unknown brands, small factories, people who pretty much just want to sell their stuff, right? Highly inspired designers, merchants. Many of them are moms who just, pick this up. And they go into a lot of the designing and merchandising. And when they're ready, they expose it on our platform, and we give them an ability to reach millions of customers very quickly. But what we do is we leverage a lot of the insights we get to help us understand, where the gems are and where the junk is, right? So that's what fashion is, right? That people, talk about fashion all the time, but in reality, most of the stuff that you see in a store doesn't sell, right? It gets marked down and sold at, end of season and end of reason sales, right? And the 10% of stuff that sells at full price pays for the 90% of stuff that no one wants, right? So we changed that, right? We figured out that if we can be data driven, right, we don't need to buy stuff and make the 10% pay for the 90, right? We could just price much sharper if we knew what consumers wanted. And so all this experience that I had with fashion has definitely manifested itself. Now that you mentioned, I haven't realized, but it has manifested itself because, on the supply side today, we're moving, tons and tons of goods every day from different countries in the world to India. And we buy a lot from India too, right? And we keep getting better and better at what we do. But our real mantra is speed, right? Like we move really fast to understand the latest trends that people like, and we move really fast to then replenishing those trends and making sure that moms can get access to the best stuff, right?
Right.
So that's the way in which our business model works, and
you're not sort of maintaining massive inventories, right? It sounds like you have a quick churn.
Yeah. I think our average purchase is about 20 days of inventory. It's lean. It's not perfect. We're getting there, but it's definitely a meaningful departure from the way fashion brands have been built in the past.
And you're not manufacturing these products, so you've kept the sort of OpEx very, very low.
Yeah, we don't do manufacturing. We work with factories
Sure.
small and medium-sized ones. We work with them, and we let them do what they do really well. We focus more on the consumer and building our brand and understanding what they want, and then sourcing what they want from factories. So our supply chain really is a means to an end to do two
Yeah.
things. One, understanding. Look, you're in fashion, and the trends keep changing. So we first of all, we try to find out what those top trends are and make sure our consumers can get access to it. And the second thing we do is, because we're very lean, we're able to offer it to consumers at jaw-dropping price points that they otherwise never had access to.
Okay, so classic asset-light business. You focus on sort of figuring out the trends, obviously managing the supply chain. That seems to be sort of key component here, and then building the brand itself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about building the brand. How do you build a brand? You know, if you just sort of break it down to like the basics for someone watching, trying to create any brand, not necessarily as an e-tailer, just any brand. How do you build a brand? You know, with all your
Yeah.
experience.
So I think it usually starts the same way it started with us at Hopscotch, right? We understood I understood my friends really well and what they wanted, right? And I think that's the first stepping stone, right? Where, yeah, you need to go find the merchandise, sell it to consumers, but you make a lot of decisions in life, right? Every day, people on your team are making hundreds of decisions. And so when you understand your consumer well, you implicitly make lots and lots of little decisions that make things resonate and work for the community you serve. And so you have early adopters. Many of the early adopters are your friends, family, and relatives. But as you do a really good job serving them, that base grows, right? The experience becomes infectious, and you're able to scale up. So that's how you first start off, right? And the challenge is when you want to scale, and that's sort of where Hopscotch is today, right? As we've scaled and gone to geographies, you know, we serve like, I think, about 2,500-3,000 cities, right? Places that we've never been to. And we don't understand who those consumers are as well as we did with our earlier group. But I think the real challenge for us in this next chapter of Hopscotch is to get really close to those consumers, understand who they are, and continue to do special things that would delight those consumers, given our intrinsic understanding, right? And so, you know, unfortunately, I'm not going to give you a very exciting explanation or, you know, 3 or 4 mantras, right? I think it's just all about customer obsession and thinking about the customer day in and day out. And I think the biggest challenge for companies is as you scale up, as you get more people on your team, right? As the organization grows, as your customer base grows, you want to make sure you stay true to who you are. And I think that's sort of where we are today, right? Trying to go deeper and deeper and just make sure we can do an awesome job and obsess about the customer because we understand her and do the right things.
Okay, so what I'm understanding is deep intrinsic understanding of the customer, and then just sort of going deeper and deeper, sort of following through on that one belief system that you want to just understand the customer and build a brand around that customer.
So I think we did an amazing job. I would give ourselves like an 8 or 9 or 10, given the resources we had, given how lean we were in the first 3 to 4 years, that really give us full points. I think the challenge is as the organization grows and the reach increases, right? How do you continue to stay close to the consumer, right? And I think that's extremely important.
Yeah.
It's something every brand has to do and must do, right? And I don't think it's one size fits all. There's many different customers. There's many audiences you serve, and you know, it's one thing if you want to be a business that's growing 10 or 20% year on year, but you know, for a large part of our journey, we grew at triple-digit growth rates. We're now growing 50% year on year, and those are really hard growth rates to maintain unless you continue to figure out and identify big pockets of opportunity to serve your existing base or to find more consumers who you otherwise weren't serving, right? And the beautiful thing about being a brand on the consumer internet is it's a huge market. There's tons of adoption. There was tons of adoption before COVID. There's even more now. you're also operating in a country like India, right? Like the consumer demand here is huge, and if you can get your value proposition right, right, you end up building a, you will find India as a market that is second to no other, right? Uh,
Yeah,
if you
I think
don't,
I think
and
the key word there is value, right? Like the
yeah,
Indian consumer is all about value.
it's not about cheap. Like I don't think our consumers want cheap stuff, right? They want more value, right? And I think
Yeah,
you look at brands like Indigo, right? A brand we follow, or Decathlon that's just entered the country.
yeah,
They're not selling cheap services, right? They're offering you great value, right? And
yeah,
the great value is an outcome of lots of things. It's not the brand or the colors they've used, right? No, it's not that, right? It's the consistency with which they can get you from place A to place B on time. It's the way
right.
their planes smell when you sit in there, right? It is, of course, it all comes to life because the brand is entirely consistent. They walk the walk and they talk the talk, right? I think that's the type of those are the brands that we aspire to be over here, right? Like, can we continue to do better and better because we're really listening to the customer and giving them more of what they want, right? We're not trying to be a premium brand here, right? We're more Indigo. We're not trying to be Jet Airways that can boast that it flies to London and Singapore, but ultimately has only so much to offer to the consumer.
Yeah, but I mean, I can't even begin to fathom the complexity of, what you're trying to do, understanding the Indian consumer, because, I mean, it's so many Indias reside within
Yeah.
one India. And for that level of, penetration that you've managed to achieve to now, go deeper firstly into the country and then also just get a grasp over the customer you're serving must be quite a challenge.
Yes, it's challenging. Look, this is a big fashion market in India. It's a $15 billion market, just kids fashion alone, right?
Wow.
And until Hopscotch came around, the biggest brand was a 150 crore rupee company that got built over, I think, 35, 40 years, right? And so the point I'm making is that if you don't position yourself right in the market, if you're not able to give the consumer value, you struggle to grow and you fail, right? But if you make your mantra and mission to squeeze out waste and to give the consumer more and more value, not cheap stuff, but really good stuff, right? And you understand and value engineer your way forward. The sky's the limit, right? And I think we're one of those cases in point here. We could argue that we're big, but relative to the size of the market, we're talking about 1 lakh crore rupee market, right? We're not even 1% of the market yet, right? And so there's lots of headroom, and we need to go find points of distribution. We need to go do better stuff in our own retail platform and keep the momentum going.
Okay. You touched upon the fact that especially initially, with less money and, you were trying to do all these things. So I want to talk a little bit about your fundraising journey. You talked about getting your first check from the founder of Diapers. So what was the progression like after that?
Yeah. So what we did was when we got off the ground, we were quite strategic. We said we want to go to angel investors, and we're going to our friends and family, and we want to do this in an honest way, and at the same time make sure we preserve value. So we did a lot of math, ran a lot of spreadsheets, and we ended up signing up all these brands on one end. We had some money from the founder of diapers.com to begin building the technology platform. And no one questions the demand in India, right? It's a big market anyway. And so
Sure.
we were able to put together this really nice story, and we ended up raising money from friends and family.
Okay.
And so we raised quite a bit of money there, right? I think I started around the 1st of April, and by the 1st of June, which was about 60 days later, we'd raised about I want to say about $1.2 million, right?
Wow.
Just start to
Okay.
finish. And I was very sensitive to what people were doing and what I was doing. I was deeply inspired and on a mission to get this round closed, but at the same time, people were giving us their hard-earned money.
Hmm.
And so I told people, I'm like, listen, please invest any amount of money that you're willing to lose, right? Because I'm passionate and I'm going to sell you, to the hilt, but there's risk, right? And many of these businesses don't see the light of day. And so that's how we got off the ground, right? We got that first angel round, and then we got a little bit more of a top up about 9 months later, and then we got to that whole Series A round right after that, about 18 months later. Um, the lesson I learned in those first few years was, there's some things in life you can time and some things you can't, right? And with
Sure.
capital markets, they're up one day, they're down the other. You can't raise money when you want it. You got to raise money when the markets are ready to give it to you. And of course, you need a product and a business that people want to fund. And when we were raising money, we could have gone to a pretty good VC and raised money from a pretty well-known name VC in exchange for an unarguably larger amount. We'd have to give up
Valuation.
a much higher share of the company, and we didn't do that because we were trying to over optimize, right? And 18 months later, during Series A, the market was terrible. It had all dried up, and everyone from Flipkart to Hopscotch was struggling to raise money, and we just about managed to pull it around together. So look, things ended up fine, fortunately, but I think the biggest learnings in fundraising are you can never time the market right, and when things are up, they're up; they're down, they're down. You can't do much. What you can do
just
is
you raise money when you need it. Is that the formula, or
if you need money at some point, raise it when it's available, right? Be as proactive as you can because it may not be there when you want it. Right? When you want it, it won't be around.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sentiment changes very quick.
Sentiment changes, absolutely. Okay. Mr. DG says, incredible. Thank you, Mr. DG. It's just Prisha says, hi. Hey, Gauri, how are you? Okay, I had a question from Aki Boy, who says, I export resort wear and swimwear for children. How can I show you our range of garments? Okay, wow. So he's a supplier. How do suppliers reach you, Rahul?
Yeah, so if you go onto our website, you could just go ahead and email us, and we'll forward your we'd be happy to. The minute you email us, someone will reach out to you and let you know yay or nay, right? And I think given the pent up needs we have for the latest trends in fashion, if the stuff is good, we'll definitely want to feature it on our platform and see how it does, right? We leave it to our consumers to decide. We don't. We do a little. We make sure that there's some guardrails to ensure things are affordable and they meet a quality standard, but otherwise the world's our oyster, right? So you probably go ahead and email us, and why don't I go ahead and try to share a email address right away for him to email us. Just give me a moment.
Okay, Aki Boy, there you go. Maybe you got an entry into Hopscotch right here. Rahul's going to share his email address. Just email them, and seems like
just email buying BUYING at hopscotch.in.
BUYING buying at hopscotch.in. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So thanks for sharing. The fundraising journey. So what's on the anvil? What's all right? Aki Boy says thank you. You're most welcome, Aki Boy. All right. Can you sort of share? What I don't want to ask this sort of standard like the 10-year and the 15-year path, but how do you think of growth? What is growth for you? Is it growth in terms of merchandise? Is it growth in terms of customer base, fundraising? Like what does growth, sort of entail?
Yeah. Look, it's simple, right? There's two dimensions. One is you want to continue to build awareness and add as many wallets or add consumers to your platform. And the other piece is you want to capture more and more share of wallet on your platform. And so you want to do both, right? So the first one, we continue to invest in the Hopscotch platform and, add, I think it's close to 2,000 new customers every day who will place a first-time order.
Wow.
And so so we keep adding more consumers, and so that goes on. And in parallel, we've realized that as a brand, we want to be available on multiple points of distribution. And so we're starting to explore partnering with some of the horizontal players. They're starved of selection. There are no brands in India. There are no known brands, at least. And so they're really our friends, right? And so they're very keen to feature us. We just launched on Amazon a little over 6 months back, and this is post-COVID. And between post-COVID and now, we're doing pretty well. We're getting to a point where we're reaching almost 100 crore rupee run rate on Amazon alone, and just in 6 months. We didn't do any magic, nor did Amazon, right? They had the traffic, they had the consumers, and we had this amazing selection. So we exposed this great stuff at great price points to an audience there, and we saw great success. And so I think every 6 to 9 months, we'll keep adding more points of distribution and drive growth. And India is a no-brainer. But one of the amazing things about India is in India, you end up having to be so frugal to give the consumer value. You end up with a value proposition that is unbeatable, right? And so we've had a lot of folks from the Amazon team reach out to us to encourage us to expose our assortment to an audience in the US and Europe, in the Middle East and Africa, in Southeast Asia, and in Philippines and Indonesia, right? Because there's lots of brands that the West has spawned. They're brands that serve an audience, right? A middle-class audience. And then there's all these other people on planet Earth in Africa, Middle East, and parts of Asia that are starved of great merchandise that's affordable, right? And so we believe there's a huge international opportunity. We're not focused on it at the moment. We're focused on India. This is really the biggest market in the world, and we will focus on it, and we will crack it more and more with every passing day and win. But we can't deny these other very exciting international growth opportunities to reach consumers in other geographies. And like you mentioned early on, India is a diverse country. It's not the US. It's more like Europe, right? Like different regions in the country have varied taste. The stuff that consumers in Gujarat want are very different from the ones people in UP may want, or the ones in Tamil Nadu may want, right? And thanks to the internet, right? The mom from Gujarat may actually live in Bombay, and the mom from Chennai may live in Bangalore. And so we can understand and build these relationships very effectively over a smartphone, right? And so as we build these unique experiences that are increasingly relevant, we believe that it's only a matter of time before we can start to cater to consumers outside of India with very relevant and exciting merchandise. So that's sort of the future.
So that's where. Okay. All right. Going to take this question here from Shalini Goenka, who's asking, how is the Indian mindset when it comes to spending on kids? The trend has been on using passed down clothes, toys, books, etc. Okay, yeah, actually, that's so true. How do you break through this age-old mindset? Okay, wow, that's a very interesting question.
Yeah, fortunately, we're swimming with the tide. We're not swimming against the tide. And I think what's happening is a couple of things, right? First of all, when a woman enters a stage of motherhood, right, she emotes a lot, and especially with first-time children, she spends a lot of time obsessing over the choices she makes and the brand she picks, right? And so for a 3-month-old or a 6-month-old child, you're probably changing them in and out of clothes 10 to 12 times a day. They're not potty trained, for example, right? And so you're buying so much, right? Like you definitely, given how exciting of an experience this is, you're spending some share of that dressing your kids in clothes that you want to buy, right? That are not hand-me-downs. And I think coupled with that, you've got social media these days, and everyone wants their kids to look cute, right? Everyone wants to dress their kids up. We find that the the latest trends in the women's fashion world are the most obsessed over on our storefronts. We call them mini me collections that mom buys for her daughter or son, right? So I think what's very exciting is that given the aspiration that people have gained with exposure to the West, there's no stopping this pent up demand for kids fashion.
Also just just fathoming, I guess, but I feel like with the whole trend towards having one child now, it's quite different from like having 3 kids, 4 kids, or where you wanted the hand-me-downs because how many clothes are you going to keep buying? Like the third kid typically would end up wearing the oldest siblings sort of hand-me-downs. But if you're going to have one child, then share of wallet increases for that one child, and then you want to sort of do everything you can to indulge this one.
You hit the nail on the head. Absolutely right.
Okay. All right. Thanks for answering that question, Shalini Goenka. I hope that took care of your question. All right. As we are moving sort of towards, the fag end of the show, just want to get your quick advice on, what should be top of mind for someone who wants to build an e-commerce business, having gone through now 10 years of pivoting, scaling, funding. I mean, you've seen it all. If you were to just sort of break it down for someone and say, hey, look, if you're going to do this, remember these sort of 2 things or 3 things or whatever that number might be for you. But, what would be the sort of, if you had to crystallize and sort of give us
I think I would 2 to 3 things. Number one, I would ask people to obsess over the customer, spend all their time and energy understanding the consumer. There's millions and there are more consumers out there than you will ever imagine. Demand in a country like India is not the problem. India is supply starved, right? We need options that Indian consumers can afford. We need options that Indian consumers can aspire for. So obsess about the consumer and get your value proposition right. That would be my first statement, right? Second, don't spend money building technology, right? There's lots and lots of very affordable technology out there that you can buy off the shelf and build. A few reasons for it. One, it'll help you get there faster. Second, you won't be distracted trying to build teams and organize people to do things needed, right? You just get there much quicker and get product market fit, right? And that's really what that first few years of journey is about, right? It's this great book called Lean Startup by Eric Ries, and I think it really helps people context switch and figure out what you really need to focus on initially when you build a consumer driven startup. And I think the last statement I would make is that while there's tons and tons of consumers out there, right, a large number of us in the last decade have given a sizable chunk of our capital away to Facebook and Google, right? And there seem to be great disruptive and emerging technologies out there that are able to connect directly with consumers. So if you're trying to build a consumer tech business focused on food and food delivery, explore using WhatsApp, explore using groups where you can build direct relationships with the consumer at a very affordable cost, right? Because having control over the consumer is strategically important, but the relationship that you forge helps you learn much faster. And the faster you learn, the better you can get because you adapt to what the consumer needs. And so, I would try to pick highly scalable platforms, but ones that, help you get out there much quicker. And there's lots and lots of ways to now reach your audience without spending too much money.
Okay. So the 2 words that I'm constantly hearing are like customer and technology. In terms of customer, what I've extracted is like, you've constantly focused on get to know the customer better, go deeper and deeper. And with tech, what I'm understanding of your advice is don't invest energy, time, and resources on building tech. Use existing platforms and software.
As much as you can.
Yeah. Okay, great. Quick last question coming in from the audience. Shalini Goenka asking, brick and mortar versus online. Would you ever go down the brick and mortar path, or you think this is a clean online business and that's where you'd like to stay?
Yeah, here's how I would think about it, right? It depends on the nature of business you're in, right? We're selling kids fashion, We're not selling you sunglasses or furniture or those categories. This is a category that lends itself to to the online medium very effectively. There is a massive market with lots of tailwinds helping you, and so it's a lot easier to scale a business online if your business and business model lends itself to an online medium. I don't think it's a competition. You've got to do what's right for your company, right? And there's some wonderful businesses out there that are being offline, that are being built offline. It just really demands that you think very clearly about what you're doing, and if you can be primarily digital. Hopscotch is 100% digital. It's just it helps you focus on a lot less things.
Sure. Okay. So from your perspective, you think you'd stay online and sort of scale rampantly?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. You go offline and build offline stores, you're growing at the Hindu rate of growth in India, right? And that's tough. You've got to keep building more and more stores, and that's a lot of heavy lifting for any company to do.
Okay. All right, guys, that's going to bring us to the end of the show. Rahul, 3 million active users, and you said 2,000 new users coming on your platform every day. You mentioned 200 new styles, 300 new styles being introduced every day. Some phenomenal numbers, but I'm sure when I check it with you a year from now, these numbers will look paltry, and you're going to look back and laugh about these numbers with the way you're growing and with your drive and ambition. Truly, the sky's the limit, Rahul, and you've shown it to us. You walk the talk, and I love the candid conversation you had with us today. Thanks for sharing not just your successes but also your failures. Gives a lot of us hope, and especially gives a lot of hope to people who've been through some weak times, and especially some bleak times now around Corona. Hang in there, guys. If Rahul's story is anything to learn from, the sky's the limit, and you can turn around your life just the way Rahul did. Thank you, Rahul, for some novel insights. Thanks, Vibha, for doing this. Thanks, Mr. DG, for listening in. Rahul, any final words before you sign off?
No, that's about it, right, guys? I would just say that there's no perfect way there, right? I think the many failures I've had have only forced me to persevere, right? And the failures haven't stopped, right? The key is to really find what your true calling is, and keep looking until you find it, and then the rest is going to be great.
Okay, Rahul, happy that you found what you needed, and thank you for the show, guys. So I was going to let Rahul log off. Thanks, Rahul. You can just sort of click on end and
thank you.
Exit the way. All right, guys, that was Rahul Anand from hopscotch.in. If you aren't already following Hopscotch, do follow Hopscotch and Rahul on Instagram. Thank you all for being part of the show. We came to an end of episode 36. We're going to start 2021 with a bang. We already have a superb lineup of speakers from very different industries all ready for you. So if you have an industry or a speaker that you would like us to feature, please let us know. Else, I hope the year started on a great note for everyone, and we're excited to be back with a lot more content, learning, and knowledge here from reachiv.com. This is Vibha Kagzi signing off, and thank you for joining the show today. Have a great one.